Hi, Chris here from InsideTheRecordingStudio.com. In last week's episode, Jody and I spoke about using dedicated channel strip plugins as a workflow and the pros and cons of that. We also spoke about learning the sound of a certain console. So in today's video, what I'd like to do is give you a couple of tips on how you might go about learning the sound of a dedicated console and what they impart on your sound. To demonstrate this, what I'm using today is a song that Jody and I wrote together, and this is now getting ready to mix. There's no processing going on these tracks, and as you can see, this is also a fairly sparse song. We only have about 20 tracks on here, so there's not a whole lot going on. But what we're going to do today is we're going to deal with the virtual mix rack from Slate, where I have a channel strip that is set to the SSL 4000E. I also have the SSL compressor inserted here and an SSL EQ, and just finally the trimmer for some level should we need it. But in this case, these are not doing anything. The only thing that we're going to listen to is this. I have that same thing across every track here. The only difference is on the buses, I have swapped the channel strip for the mix bus. That's the only thing that changes. So first, let's take a listen to what we're dealing with. I'm just going to hit play here and take a listen without any processing going on here at all.
Never listen to what experts say. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but your paranoia isn't so cool. Cause the methods of your selfish don't rule what you do.
Okay, so all the tracks are pretty clean and everything. They've been edited to just get ready to mix, like I said. Now, when we're learning what a console might sound like, just using it on one track cannot be enough. It can be a very, very subtle process. So what we're going to do here is I have, like I said, inserted it across all the tracks here. I am going to select all of them, and we're going to toggle the processing on here. And again, this is just the console emulation that's going to be activated. There's no other EQ or anything going on. So let's take a listen for the chorus section here to the song again. I'm going to start with them bypassed, and then I'm going to add it and see if you can spot the difference.
Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but your paranoia isn't so cool. Cause the methods of your selfish don't rule what you do to others as they would do, but you wanna be a pig-headed fool. And the methods of your selfish don't rule. Be the bearer of bad news, but your paranoia isn't so cool. Cause the methods of your selfish don't rule what you do.
Now, that in its default state is still, with a low track count like this, relatively subtle, but it fills out the mid-range a little bit more to my ear, and it just kind of gives a little bit more warmth, a little bit more creaminess, I guess would be a good word. So if that's still tricky to hear, now I want to show you the settings here again that I have on not just the mix buses, but the individual tracks, is that I have them set to a group. In this case, group 1. That's not important, but everything is set to one group. So now what happens is if I adjust on one of these strips, it's going to reflect the same change on all the others. So the first thing that we can do, the default setting for these strips is a 6 dB boost into them to kind of crank the preamp of the console. Now, if we bring this up, we're going to hear a dramatic increase of what the actual console is adding. So let's do that, and we should hear that it's going to get a little bit more prominent of what we hear the changes are. So let's bring that up to a hefty 12 dB. Let's see now that has changed also on all the other ones as well. So let's take a listen to that. Again, we're going to play it, and I'm going to kick it in. Here we go.
Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but your paranoia isn't so cool. Cause the methods of your selfish don't rule what you do to others as they would do, but you wanna be a pig-headed fool. And the methods of your selfish don't rule. Be the bearer of bad news, but your paranoia isn't so cool. Cause the methods of your selfish don't rule.
Now you can hear that a little bit more. And in all fairness, that is a little bit louder. So what I've done is I've tried to compensate that on the output here by bringing down about 1.5 dB. So now we're listening to the SSL 4000E emulation, but let's take a listen to a few of the others and see what that does. Now I'm going to switch between the 4000E to the 4000G, and we'll see what that does.
Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but your paranoia isn't so cool. Cause the methods of your selfish don't rule. What you do to others as they would do, but you wanna be a pig-headed fool. And the methods of your selfish don't rule. Be the bearer of bad news, but your
Can you pick up the difference there? To me, the low end sounds a little bit different. Now I'm going to go through all the other modes here. We got an API, we have a Neve, we have a TRIDENT. So let's check out and see what those options are as well.
Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but your paranoia isn't so cool. Cause the methods of your selfish don't rule. What you do to others as they would do, but you wanna be a pig-headed fool. And the methods of your selfish don't rule. Be the bearer of bad news, but your paranoia isn't so cool. Cause the methods of your selfish don't rule. What you do to others as they would do, but you wanna be a pig-headed fool. And the methods of your selfish don't rule. Be the bearer of bad news, but your paranoia isn't so cool. Cause the methods of your selfish don't rule. What you do to others as they would do, but you wanna be a pig-headed fool. And the methods of your selfish don't rule. Be the bearer of bad news, but your paranoia isn't so cool. Cause the methods of your selfish don't rule. What you do to others as they would do, but you wanna be a pig-headed fool. And the methods of your selfish don't rule. Be the bearer of bad news, but your paranoia isn't so cool. Cause the methods of your selfish don't rule.
All right. Hopefully you can hear that, and perhaps you had a favorite. And if you did, let us know in the comments below here. Now, this is a bit of an extreme example because we're cranking it here. You could go even further and it would be even more prominent. But once you start to learn what they kind of impart, you might get to dial that back in. Or if it works in your track, by all means, crank it fully and see how that goes. There you go. I hope you found that helpful. Thank you for watching and have an awesome day.